Any human being who is capable of attaining honest quietude, honest tranquility, who is capable of dividing the things of this world from the things of eternity, who is willing to render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, but unto truth and to God those things which belong to truth and God, and will place the search for reality in its own peculiar place as the supreme purpose of human life, and will cultivate even a little contemplative life, will begin to find the enrichment of larger and more complete understanding. He will never find it necessary to prove immortality, because he will move into a way of consciousness in which nothing else is conceivable, and in which consciousness itself will not permit unbelief or disbelief. We can reject the opinion of anyone. We can declare any doctrine heretical, but no individual can move against the complete impact of his own internal consciousness. He has no refuge from it. The only way he can deny it is to lock himself in an error, or lock himself in a fixation or a neurosis which will not permit him to face it. But the moment he turns again to face his own reality, he must face the full impact of it. And this is not a terrible impact, but a very gentle one. It is the simple acceptance, the permission which we give for the mind and the emotions and the body to become instruments of real value, rather than slaves of our notions and opinions. It is a simple thing in itself. Talking about it sounds terribly difficult, but it is just as simple as man going to sleep. For in sleep, man gradually casts off doubt and fear, and enters into a state of receptivity toward life. If he does not achieve this, he does not sleep. Therefore, man is awake with fear, but he must sleep in a state of faith. There is no other way he can. He must sleep with acceptance. He must accept sleep. He cannot demand it or command it. But he will discover that if he does not provide within himself certain conditions, sleep is not so likely to come to him. But just as sleep is a peace coming to him in silence, so in a way reality is a peace coming to man in silence. He cannot force it. He can do many things to prevent it. But if he keeps the pattern of life, it will happen to him, because it is intended that it should happen. And it is inevitable that man, reaching a degree of growth, shall experience the strength of internal support. This support is his in eternity. It is his inevitable and immortal birthright. And when he receives it, when it comes to him, he does not question it. He does not doubt it, because he finds in it the ever-present help, the ever-present security and strength with which to make all decisions well, and to do all things with true nobility of purpose. He must, however, actually be able to achieve this strange renunciation which the mystics and the religious of all ages have talked about. This power to be free, at least in the contemplative hour, free from the world. Free from the world in the sense, not that we escape it or evade it or avoid it, but that we set up a sanctuary in the midst of it. There is nothing more disastrous than the commercialization of a faith, of a religion. And there is nothing more tragic for man than his inability to separate his spiritual values from his objective responsibilities. He is not to reject these responsibilities. He is not to say that it is not necessary for him to make a living. But he must not have only these material treasures, nor must he permit himself to satisfy his spiritual need merely by pressing harder on his material activities. It will never work. The thing that will survive and will succeed is that he becomes capable of a voluntary renunciation of objective values for a little time, each day or whenever the opportunity arises, in the effort in that time to establish his citizenship in eternity. His effort to establish his true relationship with truth. For as this relationship grows, it solves every other problem. It is not that he is merely here to make a living. Why should he live if only economic necessity drives him on? The reason he is here is to experience, and he must pay a certain cash fee in our society for the right of being a member of an experiencing body. But unless consciousness makes this experience valuable, nothing has been gained by labor, time, or wealth. Therefore, the need to consummate this struggled gaining that we have made. We have worked hard to create some values in our objective daily living, to meet responsibilities, to serve others, to raise families. These things we have worked to accomplish. These are valuable things, but they are not the real reason we are here. We are here to learn from the doing of these things eternal lessons about ourselves and about the universe in which we live. Our purpose here is to find the laws governing value, so that every physical task that we perform becomes a valuable textbook or a symbol of a spiritual truth which we must contemplate and explore. We have no solution to our physical living except in the level of our spiritual integrity. And so life drifts on an endless cycle of disasters and disorders until man, through a contemplative focus within himself, accepts the power of reality over life and begins to live under law instead of lawlessly. With these concepts, we experience also immortality. For we discover that when we are one with what is true, we have an eternity with that truth. And the only thing about us that can die is the error in us. And the reason we can physically die is because of the interval between our spiritual nature and our physical or corporeal constitution. And it is conceivable that as man destroys the psychological interval between himself and truth, that the span of his life may be greatly lengthened, because he is killed not by necessity but by law breaking, by his own ignorance, by the tensions and pressures which he either cannot or does not prevent. Today he probably cannot prevent them because of the tremendous complex of interrelated values with which he must struggle. But as growth moves man collectively toward this concept of peace on earth and goodwill to men, when a spirit of truth is born in us, as symbolized by the Nativity in Bethlehem, when reality becomes the supreme ruler of our world, when love and not hate becomes the custodian of value for us, and we cease breaking the emotional and mental laws governing human function, it is quite possible that we shall be rewarded by the end of sickness, the end of sorrow, and the extension of life far beyond anything that we know today, and probably most certainly the transition from one state to another will be peaceful and painless and perfectly normal. These things can come when man understands, but they will not come until the individual places value above his own opinion. So in this Christmas season, let us try to recognize that an eternal, ever-present love wisdom abides forever in us and around us, but that it cannot come to us as experience until we relax, until we let down the barriers of our own opinions, until we ourselves, through a contemplative and peaceful nature, create a spiritual atmosphere in which this mystery can be known to us. The star shines, but we must have in our power to see it. And we cannot see it while we are locked in opinions of sorrow and misery. So by relaxation and peace, we experience now the fact of immortality. Whereas in our troubled states, even with all our sciences and our arts, we can never solve the mystery of life. It must be solved out of man's own understanding, his own peace of consciousness, released through an ordered life, a life brought into a worshipful state of receptivity, in which the great sacraments of the universe can be bestowed freely and fully upon a receptive humankind. And in those mysteries, we have the mystery of faith and the mystery of fulfillment. The man comes in the end to the true religious spirit, the religious experience, which we all seek so desperately to capture at this season in particular, because of its strong relation to the faith of our people and our time. And so, friends, we thank you very much and wish for you all these good things.